welcome back to the channel. Today, we're fastening our seatbelts for Plane, the 2023 action thriller that proves Gerard Butler still owns the skies when it comes to B-movie excellence. Directed by Jean-François Richet and co-starring Mike Colter, this film delivers exactly what its title promises, and so much more. Whether you're a fan of old-school action flicks or just curious how a commercial pilot and an accused murderer become unlikely allies, this video will break down the plot, the surprisingly grounded characters, and the behind-the-scenes turbulence that nearly grounded this project before takeoff. We'll also explore its reception, the controversy it sparked, and why critics called it a fairly fun flight. Stick around to the end for my final verdict. Did Plane soar or crash land? Brodie Torrance is introduced as a commercial pilot flying Trailblazer Airlines Flight 119 from Singapore to Honolulu via Tokyo. A former RAF pilot from Scotland, he's weathered, competent, and clearly carrying the weight of experience. From the first scene, we get a sense of his personality. He's no-nonsense, protective of his passengers, and willing to make tough calls when necessary. Alongside him are 14 passengers, including co-pilot Samuel Deal, flight purser Bonnie Lane, and a mysterious passenger named Louis Gaspare, a fugitive homicide suspect being extradited to Canada under RCMP custody. The film quickly establishes stakes through its inciting incident. Despite warning his superiors about severe weather, Brodie is ordered not to alter course over the South China Sea. A lightning strike destroys the plane's avionics, killing a flight attendant and the RCMP officer during the turbulence. Brodie executes an emergency landing on a remote airstrip on Jolo Island in the southern Philippines, an area controlled by separatist rebels. This setup gives us a glimpse of the film's relentless tone. Survival thriller meets rescue mission. By the end of this introduction, we already understand the impossible situation. Stranded passengers, no communications, and hostile territory closing in. The relationships in Plane are the engine that drives this high-flying thriller. Brodie's interactions with Louis Gaspare reveal both immediate tension and unexpected chemistry. Brodie is the by-the-book pilot, a man who trusts procedure and his own instincts. Louis is a former French Foreign Legionnaire, stoic, capable, and carrying the weight of his own secrets. When Brodie ventures into the jungle seeking help, Louis volunteers to accompany him, not out of altruism, but self-preservation. So, in this tense moment at the abandoned warehouse, we really get to see their dynamic come alive. Brodie, determined and resourceful, finally manages to contact his daughter and the airline, letting them know exactly where they are. But just as hope flickers, a rebel launches an attack. Louis reacts instantly, taking out the attacker and honestly, several others with a level of skill that totally surpasses what you'd expect from an ordinary prisoner. It's here that their differences truly stand out. Brodie's strong moral compass clashing with Louis's more, pragmatic approach to violence. This tension between them isn't just interesting, it actually drives the whole story forward. Supporting characters like David Scarsdale, the airline crisis manager played by Tony Goldwyn, organize the rescue from New York, while rebel leader Datu Junmar provides a ruthless human antagonist. One interesting aspect is how Louis's mysterious past shapes the decisions that will impact the climax, forcing us to constantly question whether he's a monster or simply a man who's learned to survive. As the plot unfolds, Brodie and Louis face escalating challenges that transform a survival story into a full-blown rescue mission. Key event 1 is their discovery at the abandoned warehouse. After killing the rebels, they find evidence that the militants take foreigners hostage for ransom, recording videos to extort families. This immediately raises the stakes, transforming their passengers from stranded survivors to potential victims. They race back to the plane, but rebel leader Datu Junmar and his forces arrive first, capturing the remaining passengers and crew, and killing a couple who attempt to escape. Key event 2 forces Brodie and Louis into action mode. They ambush 2 rebels looting the plane's luggage, force them to reveal the location of the rebel base, and leave a note for rescue teams before infiltrating the compound. The filmmakers use pacing masterfully here. Quick cuts during the jungle ambushes, longer takes that build tension during the infiltration, and wide shots that emphasize the hostile, unfamiliar terrain. Brendan Galvin's cinematography captures the oppressive humidity and danger of the Philippine jungle. The rescue sequence, sneaking passengers onto a bus while guards are eliminated, is taut and economical, proving that action doesn't need CGI spectacle to be effective. Watching Brodie and Louis overcome these challenges, building trust through shared violence, is what keeps us invested. Plane isn't just about crash landings and gunfights, it explores deeper themes beneath its B-movie surface. One of the most prominent is redemption through action. Louis Gaspare is introduced as a murderer, a man being extradited for homicide. Yet throughout the film, his actions, saving Brodie, protecting passengers, choosing to stay behind and fight, force us to question whether a man can be defined by his worst act or his choices in the moment. Another theme, institutional failure versus individual heroism, emerges through the contrast between the airline's crisis response and Brodie's on-the-ground improvisation. In New York, Scarsdale organizes a private mercenary team because local authorities require 24 hours to mount a response. The system can't move fast enough, only Brodie's willingness to venture into danger saves lives. The cinematography and direction further enhance these ideas. Director Jean-François Richet, known for Assault on Precinct 13 and Bloodfather, brings a grounded, almost documentary-style realism to the action. There's minimal shaky cam, clear geography in fight scenes, and a focus on practical effects over CGI. For instance, the abandoned rebel compound sequences use natural lighting and handheld cameras to create immersion without sacrificing clarity. These layers make the film more than just entertainment. They invite viewers to ask what they would do when institutions fail, and whether survival justifies alliance with a killer. Some fascinating details behind Plane make the experience even more compelling. The film had a notoriously turbulent path to production. Announced in 2016, it was acquired by Lionsgate in 2019, then sold to Solstice Studios in 2020, when Lionsgate couldn't obtain COVID-19 production insurance for the original $50 million budget, and then reacquired by Lionsgate in 2021, in what Deadline called a case of high-profile Hollywood volleyball. The film was shot in Puerto Rico starting in August 2021, which actually stood in for the Philippine island of Jolo. Mike Colter revealed on a podcast that the filmmakers, deliberately focused more on characterization than just action sequences, really grounding the thriller in believable relationships. Gerard Butler, who also produced, brought his characteristic physical commitment to the role. Fun bit of trivia here, the film earned $74.5 million worldwide against its reduced $25 million budget, making it, a solid financial success. It also sparked genuine controversy in the Philippines, where Senator Robin Padilla condemned its portrayal of Jolo as rebel-controlled and the Philippine army as ineffective. This led to the film being voluntarily pulled from Philippine theaters. These tidbits, I think, give a fuller appreciation of the work and the real-world impact behind this deceptively simple actioner. As the story reaches its explosive climax, Brodie confronts the ultimate challenge, escaping the island with his passengers alive. After Brodie stays behind as a diversion and is nearly executed, the private mercenary team arrives, inflicting heavy casualties on Yunmar's forces. The group retreats to the damaged plane, while the mercenaries and Louis fight off the remaining rebels. The key moment arrives when Brodie and co-pilot Samuel Dealer manage to restart the aircraft. Louis chooses to stay behind, killing a rebel attempting to fire an RPG at the plane, then fleeing into the jungle with a bag of ransom money. Junmar attempts another RPG shot, but Brodie's takeoff kills him with the landing gear, a brutal, poetic end for the warlord. The resolution is satisfyingly grounded. Brodie lands the damaged aircraft on the neighboring friendly island of Siasi, where emergency personnel tend to passengers and crew. The final shot shows Brodie calling his daughter, telling her he's coming home, a quiet, emotional beat after 107 minutes of mayhem. The filmmakers intended these final moments to leave a lasting impression, not triumphant spectacle, but simple human relief. A sequel, titled Ship, was announced with Mike Colter returning. In conclusion, Plane delivers exactly what it promises: a lean, mean, old-school action thriller that respects its audience and its premise. Gerard Butler and Mike Colter have genuine chemistry, the action is clear and grounded, and the film never overstays its welcome. It's not trying to reinvent the genre, just execute it flawlessly. If you enjoyed this breakdown, drop a comment with your thoughts. Did Plane exceed your expectations, or were you hoping for more turbulence? Don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more movie reviews, deep dives, and behind-the-scenes insights. Thanks for watching, and maybe think twice before flying through a storm.